Good evening, I'm Danilo Evangelista, and welcome to our evening update on the tropics. We're going to go over newly designated potential tropical cyclone 9, which has been designated by the National Hurricane Center as of the 5 p.m. advisory from this afternoon. And we're going to be going over changes to the tracks that are potentially happening with PTC 9 and changes that are happening from the latest global models that have come out as of the 18Z run. So we have quite a bit to go over this evening. Let's start off with the latest National Hurricane Center information. Right now, potential tropical cyclone 9, once again, designated as of the 5 p.m. advisory. Although, since there are watches and warnings, they're releasing advisories every 3 hours. So the latest advisory we have is from 8 p.m. Maximum sustained winds are at 35 miles per hour. Minimum central pressure at 1,007 millibars, located at 21.0 north and 75.0 west. Moving west-northwest at 10 miles per hour. And then really quickly, I do want to mention to you, Humberto is now a major hurricane, as I called it, that it would be. And in fact, the latest ATCF intensity has Humberto at a mid-range category 4. So 11 p.m. advisory update from the National Hurricane Center. We're probably getting this upgraded or more, or almost 100% certainty. Humberto will be upgraded to a category 4, likely mid-range category 4, and it might even be stronger than that. Wouldn't even honestly rule out the fact that we might get a category 5 from Humberto, making it the second category 5 hurricane of the year. Not saying that's going to happen, but I really wouldn't rule it out because I'll go over tomorrow morning. But satellite presentation of Humberto is really rapidly improved, and this has really taken off quite a bit over the last several hours. So that's just to give you a quick update on Humberto, but main focus is going to be on potential tropical cyclone 9. Still, again, the potential tropical cyclone designation, because this is not a fully tropical cyclone yet, and you can pretty much see by the satellite presentation, definitely does not look like it has a closed level center, closed low level center right now. Although you could generally see that there is a gradual low level turning in the atmosphere. So we are probably not far away from this developing. And I would not be surprised if this develops sometime tomorrow. The National Hurricane Center expects that this will develop into a fully tropical system by tomorrow, and probably cross over the Bahamas as a fully tropical system. And because of that, they have tropical storm watches and warnings in effect for portions of the Bahamas, especially the central and northern portions. And then they have this strengthening into a hurricane. But notice what happens here in the day 4 and 5 time frame. These two dots here that you see represent days 4 and 5, and look at how close these dots are together. Now, I mentioned in this afternoon's update that a lot of the models were showing that as this gets closer to the southeast, that this system would begin to slow down. The earlier models that I showed you, the GFS and the Euro, had this making landfall before it slowed down, and that would result in a huge rainfall threat and a flooding situation for the Carolinas and the Southeast. But looks like the latest National Hurricane Center forecast is actually beginning to hint that that slowing down might happen before this makes landfall, so right along the coast. And that's going to be a very, very interesting development to watch, especially when it comes to the track, as I'll show you with the models in a little bit. But they do have the strengthening into a hurricane, so we'll give you that this is probably going to become, that's probably one thing that is more certain right now, is that this is definitely probably going to become our next hurricane for the season. And then just really quickly wanting to show you with the 850 millibar vorticity right now, Definitely not a super defined signature yet on the vorticity. So, it makes sense that this is not a tropical cyclone just yet. Does not have a closed low level center. And you could definitely tell because we don't have a very defined balled up signature on the vorticity like we have here with Humberto. So it's going to take a little bit of time, but again, probably by tomorrow we'll see this fully develop. If not, definitely by Sunday, and we'll probably see it by Sunday already, a tropical storm intensifying by then. But after that is when things really start to become tricky. And you know what? I'm just going to dive right into what the 18Z GFS shows, bearing in mind that you all remember what the 12Z GFS showed. So just really quickly going to actually rehash your memory. Why not? So here's what the 12Z GFS showed. Showed this developing quickly over the Bahamas and then strengthening into a hurricane, and then taking a nosedive right into the South Carolina coast late Monday and early Tuesday. And then throughout the middle to later portion of next week, the GFS then had PTC 9 kind of stalling out and raining itself out over the southeast, especially over South Carolina and Georgia. The 18Z run, on the other hand, notice what a difference. Probably the storm is like a full 200, 300 miles further to the east, and definitely way offshore in this run. And why is that? Well, I did mention this a little bit. I did mention this a little bit in my discussion from earlier today that some of the other models, I think it was the European AI model, and I'll go over the European AI model here in just a little bit. But they had a solution where the storm would move slower, and instead of slowing down and stalling just inland of the coast, that PTC 9 would slow down as it approaches the coast to the point that maybe it stalls offshore because of the influence of Humberto here. And, given that Humberto has rapidly intensified a lot over the last several hours, and it's probably going to be a stronger storm than what the models advertise, you would definitely think that Humberto would have an influence. And you see that here on the 18C GFS. This develops and then intensifies quite a bit, but then notice here, unlike the 12Z, the 18Z run PTC 9 just stalls right off the coast here of South Carolina, as it feels the weakness and a potential path out to sea here because of the weakness from Humberto. And then you see here, as we head into the end of the week, that's exactly what happens. So it goes, instead of a direct landfall right along the southeast coast, and then potentially being a huge rainmaker. And by the way, I would still say that this will probably be a huge rainmaker, even if this, remains just off the southeast coast. But, this stalling right over land would be a ginormous rainfall and flooding threat. This run, again, just keeps it off the coast. Somehow it's almost as if there's some sort of force field pushing the storm off the east coast. And again, it's because of Bermuda, not Bermuda. Although, Bermuda Triangle, you go into all those kind of weird stuff, whatever. But the influence from Humberto, once again, creating this kind of weakness, and it takes the storm miraculously out to sea. And compare that to what the 12Z run shows. Again, boy, does it just goes to show how much things can change sometimes within literally a span of one or two model runs here. And during the peak of the hurricane season, these kind of changes happen a lot. And what is one model that what the GFS is doing now is most similar to, as I just said, that is the European AIFS. And I'm just going to go over what it shows. And they're the first ones that actually, I believe, that show the scenario that the GFS, as of the 18Z run, has now come on board with. And that is, as you see here, develops, and then especially as we head into early next week, if you're going back to the 12Z GFS, if you remember, already by Tuesday morning, PTC 9 was pretty much inland over South Carolina here. Well, on the AIFS model, it is just off the coast of northern Florida and just north of the Bahamas, and definitely not over the coastal South Carolina. And then it just kind of slows down here, almost stalls, and then begins to feel the weakness and heads out to the northeast. But then the AIFS after that does some very interesting things, and instead of going completely out to sea like the GFS shows now, they end up after that slowing it down once again, and then it does a whole bunch of weird stuff. But that is, we're now at hour 168. I'm definitely not showing you what happens after this because it does get kind of weird and crazy, and definitely not something that I would advise to take seriously, especially since it's all once again beyond 168 hours, 7 days out. But just to show you the model consensus from the 18Z run, and this is actually initialized as of 0Z, so not even as of 18Z anymore. But once again, notice what a lot of the models are starting to do. If you remember, and I wasn't able to bring up the model consensus from earlier today because I wanted to bring up to compare the two. But if you remember the model consensus from earlier today, all of them or majority of the models were taking PTC 9, or at least it was Invest 94L earlier today, directly into the southeast coast. And now, as you see here, as of the 0Z run, majority of the models do what the GFS and the European AI model now do, and that is keep this just offshore, and then this randomly, not randomly, but this slowly begins to stall, and then eventually ends up making a turn towards the east. The hurricane models, though, as you can see here, still make this hit directly right along the southeast coast. So, bottom line, we're going to have to watch the tropics very closely here over the next several days, as it seems like things are starting to get less certain, in my opinion, rather than more certain. And it definitely throws a monkey wrench in things, as we are now starting to see a lot of the models, especially like the GFS, shift dramatically with the 18Z run. But one thing that I will say that you still need to keep an eye for is the rainfall. And I would say even if this does not make landfall along the southeast coast, or makes a direct landfall in South Carolina or even North Carolina, the rainfall along the coastline will still be very, very high. And that's what the Weather Prediction Center forecasts here over the next 7 days. Rainfall totals, especially as you get towards the Carolina coastline of both North and South Carolina, rainfall totals as high as half a foot 6 inches, and probably along the coastline here, as much as a foot of rain for some areas. But that's just for the United States. In the shorter term, for Cuba and for the southern Bahamas, rainfall is going to be a big issue. And as you can see here, for large portions of the Bahamas, especially the central and southern Bahamas, rainfall totals as high as 6 to 8 inches. And even in the southeastern tip of Cuba here, rainfall totals as high as 12 to 16 inches. So over a foot of rain, with isolated portions here above 16 inches. So that's going to result in a lot of flooding. And this is going to happen in the short term, and it's probably happening right now for portions of the Bahamas. Again, all being caused by PTC 9. And also, don't forget as well, Haiti, the DR, and Puerto Rico going to get some rainfall as well from this system. And I mentioned the rainfall impacts because, as I've said before, rainfall is the #1 killer when it comes to a tropical cyclone. And rainfall is definitely going to be the biggest thing we're going to have to watch. But it'll make a huge difference, especially in terms of the worst rainfall totals, on whether or not PTC 9 ends up stalling just off the southeast coast, or if it ends up stalling just inland of the coast, because that'll definitely make a huge difference, especially for impacts along the United States, mainland impacts. And in terms of hashing that out, at this point, all I'm going to say is you got to watch the tropics over the next several days because there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of changes that are happening with the models right now. And we'll certainly be watching everything very closely. I did 2 of video updates today, and you can expect the same tomorrow. We're going to do 2 video. We're going to be probably doing multiple video updates from now on out, from here on out, I should say, up until PTC 9 dies, or up at least up until this makes landfall, or if this doesn't make landfall, I guess up until it's no longer a major threat. But we're going to start ramping up things here. And I said that they would happen, especially, since things were quiet for a little bit through earlier this month, but that is definitely changing now. And now is the time to really watch the tropics very closely. And we're going to be doing that once again a lot here over the next several days. But that's going to do it for this evening's update. Hope you found it informative. If you did, please leave a like, comment, and definitely make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you can get videos the moment I upload them, and live streams the moment I upload them. And also follow me on Twitter too, at Danilo Evangelista, because I'll be posting updates quite often there as well. I know, kind of been a little lackluster in recent weeks on the updates, but now that we got PTC 9, definitely going to be doing them, and probably going to be doing them quite a bit tomorrow, or at least as much as I feel like doing. But definitely expect some updates on Twitter tomorrow, and also more videos here on YouTube. But until then, enjoy the rest of your night. Stay safe. Peace, love, and kindness to you all. I'll talk to you again tomorrow.